I'm LARPing, and they can't do much to me now anyway. From 2012 to 2023, I worked in naval intelligence, focusing on advanced underwater detection systems as part of an unidentified submerged phenomena program. Our work involved close collaboration with the DoD and leading defense contractors, whose names you can likely guess. The program's objective was to investigate anomalous underwater activity in specific areas of interest. My recruitment came after earning a PhD in oceanographic engineering, and my role was to analyze sensor data and identify patterns in these phenomena. I'll keep this as concise as possible. I'd like to start by saying that the drones we've been seeing aren't US experiments, Chinese tech, or extraterrestrial. The objects we're seeing are from Earth, and while we're not entirely sure what they are, we know where they come from. The objects we see emerge from subterranean and submarine exit points. During my time in the USP program, my team analyzed data from nuclear subfleets equipped with next-gen quantum sonar arrays. These tracked objects emerging from and returning to depths far below our sub's crush depth, about 2,400 feet. Simply put, their movement defied physics. I'm talking about vertical ascents and descents at 75 to 90 degrees with constant velocity, no cavitation, and no acoustic signature. By 2014, we identified consistent emergence points, we called threshold points. These weren't random. Clusters of these objects always seem to emerge in the Puerto Rico Trench, off California's continental shelf, and the East Pacific Rise. The objects' physical properties are quite honestly terrifying, as they can physically alter their structure and manipulate electromagnetic fields to mimic real aircraft, replicating their shape, motion, and reflective properties. However, our quantum sonar arrays consistently revealed their true, unchanging forms, suggesting the transformation is either superficial or operates by mechanisms we don't understand. You wouldn't believe how much activity has ramped up over the past 2 years. By mid-2023, the whole situation got so tense that my access to key data was locked down almost overnight. It wasn't subtle. My higher UPS were clearly scared. Everything became need to know, and apparently, I didn't need to know anymore. When they started pulling senior analysts from the program and stonewalling me from anything remotely relevant, it was obvious the walls were closing in. That's when I decided it was time to leave. The recent wave of whistleblowers you'll be seeing and incidents, like the Cybertruck bomber, are controlled disclosure. It's all part of a calculated effort to muddy the waters and keep people chasing shadows while something much bigger is unfolding. These objects aren't extraterrestrial, and they're not some top-secret military tech. Our theory is that they've been here far longer than we have, and whatever they're doing, it's ramping up fast. Our final pattern analysis before the data lockdown showed an exponential increase in emergence events. The trend wasn't just alarming, it pointed toward a critical threshold. Also, we're entirely certain they aren't just buzzing around aimlessly. They're systematically mapping and surveying infrastructure, military installations, population hubs. They're covering everything, and they're doing it while blending in perfectly. They could look like a drone, an airliner, or who knows what else, but under the surface, there's something entirely different. Did your office work with the NOAA during all of this? Yes. We had ongoing collaborations with PMEL, particularly their ocean exploration program. They provided data and environmental monitoring that helped us establish baseline acoustic signatures to filter out natural phenomena. They were a pain in the ass. Any activity near Karlat Yam? If you're referring to Kiryat Yam, I'm not sure about the spelling you used. We didn't have direct monitoring stations in the Mediterranean. At least I was never aware of these and only focused on the areas I already mentioned. The Mediterranean's average depth of around 1,500 meters doesn't provide the conditions we typically associated with threshold points. If Euros and Africans see these objects, it's because they went from the Atlantic threshold points, particularly from the Puerto Rico Trench vector, and moved eastward across the ocean. What were the true forms you saw on sonar? We consistently observed two configurations. The most common was an oblong spheroid, exactly like the tic-tac shape that gets thrown around a lot. The other form was perfectly spherical, usually 5 to 8 meters in diameter. Regardless of what they appeared to be visually, drones, aircraft, etc. The quantum acoustic signature always showed one of these two base forms. The sphere configuration was more common during deep water operations, while the tic-tac shape was prevalent during surface-to-air transitions. Any biological effects reported near the exit points? Changes in sea life behavior? Marine life doesn't notice these things. Our bio team used to joke about this. It's pretty wild when you think about it, even our quietest subs send marine life scattering, but these objects might as well be part of the coral. Summer 2015 Puerto Rico shelf emergence of small fast unit that flew over East US? This very much tracks. The Pentagon videos they confirmed in 2020 were from that 2014 to 2015 activity spike. It was cool seeing them finally acknowledge footage we'd been analyzing years before. The release of those videos sparked huge internal fights. You had some officials pushing for disclosure, other branches fighting to keep everything classified, and some just freelancing their own agenda. My team thought we were finally getting somewhere, but instead it just exposed how fractured the whole system is. Different offices either fighting over control or actively undermining each other. We're cooked. Any idea why they are putting small devices into people? The implant phenomenon is real. Never heard anyone talk about this. There's no evidence to suggest they aren't from our planet, but you're not entirely wrong. These objects show specific interest in our infrastructure and population centers. We're certain they're mapping human activity specifically, and not just general planetary resources. What's going on in New Jersey is unprecedented. Everything else is pure speculation. Do you think it could be related to Earth's pole shift? No. The Earth's magnetic pole shift is like a very slow-moving compass needle. We actually studied this possibility extensively because the objects we tracked could manipulate electromagnetic fields. Imagine you're watching birds migrate. If they were following Earth's magnetic field, like actual birds do, you'd see gradual changes in their patterns matching the pole's movement. But these objects followed completely different rules. They created their own magnetic disturbances, kind of like how a magnet can temporarily override your compass. Why the fuck would these things even care about us now if they're some ancient Earth species? Our theory was that they're tired of us fucking with their shit, quite honestly. We always assumed they're peaceful, or else humanity wouldn't have thrived for this long. However, we've basically industrialized every corner of their native environment. Deep sea mining, submarine cables, sonar networks, oil rigs. We're literally building infrastructure right on top of their threshold points. Plus, our self-destructive behavior, nukes, puts them at high risk. That's why there's been so much more activity in the last 80 years. What's the point of mimicking planes? They clearly don't want direct interaction with us, and the mimicking seems to be an evasion tactic. Numbers. By late 2022 we had around 40 emergencies per month. Back in 2014 only 10 to 20. But the worst part wasn't the numbers, it was seeing multiple threshold points activate at once, which had never happened before. Last projection before I lost access showed 100 plus monthly events by end of 2023. Given what's happening now, especially in New Jersey, we're probably looking at 10 plus events daily. Way beyond anything we modeled. Did any other nations track this shit? Of course. That's actually part of why keeping this contained is impossible. Russian deep-sea research vessels were all over the East Pacific rise threshold points. They have better deep water capabilities than most people realize. The Chinese aren't dumb to this either. The funny part is we'd occasionally get sanitized intelligence reports of them tracking the exact same phenomena, but everyone played dumb in international waters. Picture these three countries all following the same objects while pretending they're just doing routine patrols. It's ridiculous. The Chinese especially ramped up their deep-sea monitoring after 2019. Look up their underwater sensor network expansion. When is the critical threshold? If you're asking for a specific date, I can't give you one. That's not how it works. Our models showed emergence events increasing exponentially, but we lost access to the data before pinpointing when it could peak, and that prediction could be incorrect. What I can tell you is that the rate of increase we were seeing by mid-2023 was well beyond our worst-case projections from 2019. Think of it like watching a pot about to boil. You can see the bubbles forming faster and faster, but you can't predict the exact moment it'll boil over. All I know is we're seeing way more activity now than any of our models predicted we would, and nobody knows their end goal. Jake Barber whistleblowing. LOL. LMAO, even. Good to see people are still falling for the News Nation, Kyle Hart, Greer, etc. grifts. Give them ratings, and forget to like and subscribe to their YouTube channels and buy all their books, smiley face. In all the data we collected, there wasn't a single aggressive action. They're capable of incredible things, but they've never shown hostile intent. If they wanted violence, we wouldn't stand a chance. Something that can alter their structure, manipulate electromagnetic fields and move through water like it's air. We'd be done in hours. What we observed was more like territorial behavior. Like they're responding to us encroaching on their space. They're aware of our nuclear capabilities. That's probably humanity's only real deterrent. I guess they understand that any overt action risks a nuclear response from us, that would poison their environment as much as ours. But that's just my analysis based on the data. I'm not going to pretend I know their intentions. Threshold points aren't physical structures or holes, that's what made them hard to study. They're more like zones where normal physics starts acting up. UUVs could get within about 600 meters before their navigation systems would start going haywire. Compasses spinning, depth sensors showing impossible readings, that sort of thing. Lost quite a few REMUS units trying to get closer. The best imagery we got was from multi-beam sonar mapping. You'd see these perfectly circular areas, maybe 50 meters in diameter, where the return signals just didn't make sense. Like the bathymetry would show normal seafloor topology, then this completely smooth disk where all our instruments failed to get coherent readings. Almost like a blind spot in the data. Who do you find to be the most credible and genuine? Most of them are working with fragments of information, and some are definitely spinning narratives for profit or attention. The ones talking about bodies, exotic materials, and crash retrievals are missing the point entirely. These things don't crash, there are no retrievals, LOL. Again, fragments of info are out there. So is the reality of what's happening, it's right in front of everyone. People just keep looking for aliens when they should be looking elsewhere. That's all. Does this mean the guy who said that creatures live in these plasma voids under the ocean wasn't LARPing? I forget what he called the substance they lived inside, but he said it occurred under great pressures, and they've lived in these plasma oceans underneath us for thousands of years. I forget what people called them, but it's something like Doublenay. He said we developed nukes, which is tech they didn't have, and they developed anti-gravity. And they wanted us to stop messing with their ecosystem, that's why they emerged. And a huge war is brewing, but they agreed to peace for a few decades with them. Presumably they are humanoid, but with aquatic features. My IQ is 142 and I didn't read a single word of any of OP's posts. I merely entered this thread to tell you all my IQ, then leave.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army. Army officers say the missile...
The earth is not flat, it's hollow, and there's Nazis in it. Shit, if that's true, you're probably gonna find me in it. Vibing while we fry Hasidics, ashes in the sky's the limit. I'm just rhyming with it. This is my demented mind, and y'all just climbed up in it. Every now and then I can get retarded.
Like, share, subscribe, and be sure to check the notification bell. Follow the Atomic Shaman on Twitter at Motel and RV Park. Listen to Paranormal Green Text Stories on Atomic Shaman TTS on YouTube. Catch the live streams of Atomic Shaman Sweat Lodge only on Rumble.